Yeah, you can start, sir. Thank you.
Jai Hind. It's a great pleasure to join you all the aspirants of the armed forces. You know, when I'm talking to you, I'm reminded of my own young days when I decided to join the Indian Army. And I also appeared for the NDA entrance examination and then went through that interview. That was long ago, of course. You know, a lot of people ask me, the first question, in fact, they ask me is, why did I choose a military career and the army? And firstly, I must tell you that there were not many opportunities. Our parents wanted either that we should become either doctors or engineers or go to civil service or go to the military service. And amongst those available, I thought a career in the armed forces was considered the best at that time. And the National Defense Academy was new. And whenever I saw an army officer, there were some in my family also. One looked at them, they were very smart, and they absolutely stood apart when it came to their military bearing was concerned, always confident. And the best thing was that they were very well mannered. And if they gave you time, unlike the politicians of today, they were very punctual. Everybody thought that they had good character, very high integrity. And the NDA motto was service before self, which meant that you did selfless service. They were, of course, known for their courage and their brave attitude and work. And what I also liked was that the life in the military was considered very adventurous. It gave you opportunities to see the whole of India, sometimes abroad also, and you traveled all over, whether there were mountains or desert. And of course, they were considered to be aim-oriented, Laksh-oriented. You know, when they had the Laksh in front of them, it was well known that the service officer, Army, Navy, Air Force, they will achieve it. So that was the kind of attitude that we had. And frankly, you know, that was 6 decades ago. And when I compare those characteristics with other professions, I still feel that the armed forces are still the best. They were a most dependable brand in India then, and they remain the most dependable brand today. So that was why I joined the service and joined NDA. Now, here is my journey from in NDA. On the left, where I'm wearing the number 5, this is how I went to the Services Selection Board. The next photograph of mine is from the National Defense Academy, and you can see the NDA mark on my shoulder here. This is during an exercise in the Indian Military Academy. And this is how, when I got my commission as a second lieutenant. And this is me as a captain during Cargill, during Sino-Indian War in Ladakh. I was with my battalion in Ladakh as a captain, and I had to establish new posts during that winter. And this is how I ended up my career, as you can see, as the Chief of the Army Staff. So it was a great, I would say, opportunity, a great experience throughout. And when I look back today, you know, you feel very proud, and it is very satisfying that you were head of an organization, which is, of course, a very large organization. In my time, we had not 1.4 officers, JCOs, and men. There were no bars on caste, color, creed, religion, or gender. Gender came little later during Corona. But the fact is that, we keep talking about all these aspects of our nation, but it's really the military which represents these aspects of the Indian diaspora, Indian population, um, unity in diversity. That is the true image of the Indian Armed Forces. I don't think it is anywhere else. In fact, I always taunt the politicians that you tend to divide our country on the basis of caste, color, religion, etc. But it's the armed forces which keep them united, the whole of India. So I feel very proud having belonged to an organization which is a role model of democratic values, national integration, and meritocracy. I must also tell you that these are boys from my regiment, the Sikh Light Infantry, and they are wearing their ceremonial dress in one of the Republic Day parades. So, what is the most important thing? What is the most important aspect of life that the army has taught me? I think I put it down on this slide. I think what the army has taught me is leadership with character, ethos, ethics, and military values. That is what really has taught me over the years, whether it is discipline or it is honor of the job that you are doing, of the regiment, of the nation, loyalty, integrity, working as a team. I think that is an absolute essential requirement in the armed forces because your life depends on each other. So team spirit is one of the most important traits when joining the army or as a leader. And when it comes to team spirit, I always tell people that first you become a good member of the team, how I joined, and later you become a good leader of the team. And I've also given a quote from Bhagavad Gita, which says, it's from Bhagavad Gita, which says that if there is nothing more welcome for a man of the warrior class than a righteous war. So you went through that with these kind of teaching. This is the credo of the Indian Military Academy, which I learned. The safety, honor, and welfare of the country come first, always and anytime. The honor, welfare, and comfort of the men you command come next. Your own ease, comfort, and safety come last, always and every time. Now, this is the credo of the Indian Military Academy. And believe you me, till the last day of my service, I tried to follow this. In fact, I had got it written on a big chart, and that was kept opposite my office table as an army chief, as well as in the waiting room when some people came to see me. So they would see this credo and they realized what it really meant for each one of us. Army, all the three services, for them, traditions are almost sacred to all soldiers. These traditions, they can be traced upwards to patriotism, the highest part of patriotism, and of course down to self-pride. Each one of us is expected to have self-pride. And every soldier takes tremendous pride in his regiment and also from our mythology, from people who fought in Ramayana war or in Mahabharat war, or even in World War I and II. and of course much more from those who fought and led the army after independence to make sure that we can maintain our independence. And just reminding you of Bhagavad Gita, which said, considering your own duty, you never waver, for there is nothing more welcome for a man of warrior class than a righteous war. This is what I showed you. And also remembering Guru Gobind Singh's message, who said, De Shiva Var Mohe, Shubh Karman Se Kabhi na Tal. I should never be afraid of doing the righteous work. So, when you pass out from the academy, or when the soldier becomes, from a recruit, he becomes a soldier, we take an oath on Constitution, not for any political party, but on our Constitution. And that Constitution of ours keeps us apolitical, away from politics, which I think is the best thing today. Also, all the traditions that I have mentioned, they give us pride, and they also bind us together. In the armed forces, this is again part of our traditions, and you see whatever you go through in your life, you get a medal for that if you do well. And these are the medals that I had. There was one more medal which is not indicated here, the Param Vishisht Seva Medal. So there is a high level of patriotism, and a call asks not what the country can do for you, but what you can do for the country. Yeah, in the armed forces, we strongly believe in knowledge and action. Now, action is more important. Why? Because our scriptures, they say, all actions without exception culminate in knowledge. Knowledge and action both lead to supreme bliss. However, this is important. Action is superior to knowledge. That's what Bhagavad Gita says. And I think all scriptures, whichever religion you take it. So therefore, as far as we are concerned, never hesitate from action. Action is making use of your knowledge, your experience, and opportunity, and gaining more knowledge. I always have believed, and I have always encouraged, that action and implementation of whatever you plan is more important than any amount of planning. Just planning is not good enough. You have to act on it, you have to implement it rightly. So the implementation becomes more important than planning. Now I come to the second part, and that is on leadership. Yeah, before that, let me also add this slide. Spirit of adventure is there. As I mentioned to you right in the beginning, these facilities are available. You are given the opportunity. In fact, I would say that you are encouraged to develop this spirit of adventure. I don't think any other service anywhere in India will give you these kind of opportunities. Nature friendly, yes. You always learn to stay with nature, whether you are in mountains and jungles or desert. So again, the army career gives you, lets you become nature friendly. You respect the nature, and you learn from the locals who are living in those surroundings. It's a great feeling, when you are fighting in the mountains and following the locals, seeing them how they work, and in those circumstances. I'm coming to a challenge which we have to accept throughout our career. Now, what I have here mentioned is adversity quotient. Incidentally, this was written by a person called Paul Stoltz in 1997. And in that book, he said that a score that measures the ability of a person to deal with adversity or challenges. So what really you get measured is your tenacity, your persistence, and your self-confidence. And in the armed forces, when we come to selection processes, etc., this becomes the most important thing. A person with high AQ or adversity quotient is someone who can stick out in challenging circumstances. And the armed forces are always going through challenging circumstances. I'll talk about it a little later. So this is one thing that we keep looking for among people who join the armed forces. Particularly, it's a question of people, the boys and the girls who want to join OT or Indian Military Academy. So this becomes important for us. We face challenges almost every day, whether it is peace or it is war. And in fact, I would say the essence of leadership in the armed forces lies in the manner in which we react to win a situation. You have to win a situation, however adverse the circumstances of the battle, of the situation may be. I just want to remind again that only strong leaders and strong organizations, they are the people who can beat challenges or who can beat adversities which come their way. Incidentally, I think all of you probably know that Pakistan had managed to surprise us. And just giving you an anecdote, when I briefed the Prime Minister and his colleagues, I told them this was the correct picture, this was the picture. And I noticed that everybody in that room, operations room, had long faces, particularly the political leaders. So somebody asked me, what is the name of the operation which you are now going to launch? And looking at their faces, I said, well, we'll call it Operation Vijay, because I'm quite confident that Vijay will be ours. So that is how it happened. And I thought I must tell you the secret of calling that Vijay operation as Vijay. Challenges. Yeah, this is a photograph taken of a patrol in Siachen. So no matter what the odds are, you learn to face challenges. So that is the army life. And now I'm going to spend a little time on leadership aspects. Armed forces means leadership all the way. Leadership is developed and practiced at every level. In Naik, he has the authority. If he's a guard commander, and if anybody violates whatever he is supposed to secure or ensure safety of that, he can fire and nobody can challenge him. So that is how we develop leadership from Naik, Havaldar, JCO, and of course officers, all the way from a lieutenant to a chief also. It is developed all the way. Every rank you develop for the next rank. So there is responsibility and there is an accountability at every rank. I just given you example of a Naik who's a guard commander. If somebody violates, doesn't obey whatever he's asking for, well, that Naik has the authority to fire and you can do nothing about it. You cannot question him. That is accountability and responsibility. Now, when it comes to leadership, I have 4 takes on leadership, whether you are a lieutenant or you become an army chief. First is leadership is 30% knowledge or skill, 70% is your attitude. How you deal with people in an appropriate manner to achieve the goal that you have in your mind. Ultimately, the goal is given by the leader. He tells his team, and now how you deal with the team, that becomes essential. Because you have to now make people achieve that aim. Second, sound character. If somebody asks me what is the most important aspect of leadership, I will always say sound character. That is the key to leadership. It's a major component to create long-term trust and bonding. If people do not trust you, they will not follow you. If you are going to ask them to go and face enemy bullets, if they do not trust you, they will not follow you. So this is what is, and a leader in the armed forces has got a transparent life. there is nothing, there are no double standards. Everybody is watching you all the time. So character becomes the most important aspect or trait as far as leadership is concerned. Leadership stands for trust, hope, change, success, and your ability to remain resilient in any adversity and accept it as a challenge, or I would say AQ that I talked about. So that is another aspect. The third and the last one is the most important, I would say. Leaders, I do not believe, are born, seldom born. Anybody who is born in a particular family, he cannot turn around and say that I'm the leader. In fact, such leaders are generally failed. Leaders are always a result of hard work, self-belief, believing in themselves, making use of opportunities that come their way, and then gaining experience. And you can see here is a leader, a lieutenant. In fact, those days we had second lieutenant, and then managed to rise all the way to this position. So these are 4 simple takes on leadership. If you follow them, I can assure you, you will never fail when you are leading people. Now I'm coming to the experience part of it, how we managed to change the adverse situation to a success. And I wrote a book subsequently after my retirement, and I call it Cargill, From Surprise to Victory. So I'm going to give you a few images of that just to tell you how and where we fought that war. This is a map of Jammu and Kashmir, that is before last year. And POK stands for Pakistan Occupied Kashmir. The purple line here is the line of control over 700 kilometers. And the yellow line is in Siachen sector. This line here in the mountainous, very high mountain area, it's called actual ground position line, GPL, actual ground position line. This is about 110 kilometers here, and this side is, as you can see, the distance is about 900, I think, kilometers. So there were many challenges. The most important challenge was the terrain there. You see the kind of mountains where we had to fight. This is a famous Tiger Hill, and I would recommend all of you who are keen to join the services, whenever you get an opportunity, you must visit Ladakh. It's a unique territory, a unique place, and there is so much to learn from there. This Tiger Hill is in Dras sector. This is a glacier toward the end of the glacier before it meets the river Shyok. And this is not taken during peak winter. It is being taken, in fact, I would say, during the month of May. Summer is about to start. Okay, so there were many, this crisis had many challenges for us. Terrain, I have mentioned to you, high altitude, for every, after every 3,000 feet, after 9,000 feet, 12,000, 15,000, we have to acclimatize ourselves because of the high altitude. You can't just run into that area. You acclimatize yourself, otherwise you will get, you'll fall sick. And that terrain, as you saw glaciated terrain. There was total intelligence failure. In fact, we did not get any indication from any intelligence agency that Pakistan was preparing a war. Maybe because 2 prime ministers had met and they had signed that Lahore agreement, but we just did not get any information from anyone that they were preparing for war or they had launched some troops. Yes, people did tell us a little later that there were some jihadis who had infiltrated into the valley and this area. Now, jihadis are different to Pakistan Army. Our rules of engagement are quite different from one to the other. There was also surveillance failure because of the winter conditions and posts being far away from each other. Patrols could not work properly. There was a lot of snow there, And those days, of course, we did not have the surveillance equipment like UAVs or radars or satellite imagery. We didn't have any of those things at that time. Today, we are much more confident today. Then there were shortages of. I think there's some, yeah. So these were the challenges, and there was also another challenge of tests we had done a year earlier, and all the Western nations had imposed economic and defense trade sanctions on us. So we couldn't buy any arms ammunition once the war had started. So with occurring within 65 days of Lahore Declaration, it became a situation which I'm calling today volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. In fact, this VUCA, VUCA, is an acronym today, and people are taught how to deal with situations which have the VUCA environment, VUCA. Today, this is taught in all military academies, and even in business, people now learn how to deal with VUCA situations. So this is what the crisis and challenges were. Well, the favorite message that I conveyed when I went and visited our troops abroad on the front line, it was always the enemy has started the fight, but it is we who will fire the last shot. The war will end only on our terms. This is what I would tell my troops whenever I toured and met our officers and men. Well, these are four. On the left on top is Vikram Batra. I think everybody has known or learnt about him. Right top is Manoj Pandey, a lieutenant from the Gurkha Rifles, both of them. And the third one down below on the left is Yogendra Yadav. He was a Sipahi then, and today, of course, he's a Subedar Major. And on the right is another, he was a Sipahi, Sanjay Kumar. All four of them in that war got Param Vishisht Chakra, which is the highest gallantry award. So that is how we fought that war. It was basically the junior leadership which got us victory, because implementation at their level was very, very good, exemplary. I think I want to read one very interesting letter to you from a Sipahi during that war. We have an organization called Army Wives Welfare Association, and the AWWA, they decided to send sweets to the troops on the front line, and they sent a lot of sweet packets, and which were distributed amongst the people who were fighting on the front line. So one person, he wrote back to them. He didn't know who had sent them, and so he writes, "My dear Awa," and in that letter he writes, "हमने और हमारे सैनिक भाइयों ने आवा की मिठाई खाई। मिठाई खाते हुए हमें बहुत जोश आता है कि आप इसी प्रकार मिठाई भेजते रहो तो हम लाहौर तो क्या इस्लामाबाद भी पहुंच जाएंगे। आप लोग निर्भय होकर रहो, हम आपकी व अपने देश की रक्षा करेंगे." And then he writes, "हम पाकिस्तानियों को ऐसी सीख सिखलाएंगे कि उनको सपने में भी याद आएगा कि इंडिया और इंडियन आर्मी क्या चीज है। भाइयों व बहनों, तुम खुश रहो, हमारी तरफ से तुमको हम अपनी तरफ से बहुत शुभकामनाएं करते हैं." And that was a Sipahi, Sunil. I'm just showing you the letter. This is the letter that came to us. It was addressed to Awa. So that was the spirit that we had amongst the troops who were fighting. And motivation, high spirit is absolutely essential when you are meeting these challenges. In fact, the most important job of the leader is to make sure that everyone who's participating is highly motivated, and he's enthused in doing whatever task has been given to him. So that was the end of the war. That is how we won. There was courage, there was commitment, there was determination, and there was leading from the front. The spirit was strong. Any organization which has got strong spirit will always do well. So that was my presentation and the talk that I have now been sent some questions, and I'll try and answer those. The first question, which says, what was the toughest call that was made during the Kargil War? In such situation, the most important call is your first success. You have to achieve success. So you look for success. Sometimes you look for an important objective and you want to succeed. So for us, I think Tololing, which was the most important objective dominating that road, that became a tough call. We had to capture that. So we went fully prepared. The hand-to-hand fighting continued for so many days. And I must give full credit to the units which were fighting and the leaders who were there. In fact, that was the toughest call. Then by the end of June, we had started achieving many successes. And that is what made Pakistan Prime Minister run all the way to China and then to USA. So then they were running around really. And our morale was high and their morale continued to be low. And on 4th of July, we captured Tiger Hill. And I think by 7th, we had also captured point 487. By then, the morale of the Pakistani soldiers as well as Pakistani politicians and the leaders, military leaders, had collapsed literally. So that is how I would say that Tololing was the turning point as far as that war is concerned. What is the most important rule in taking quick and bold decisions in a war-like situation? Okay, this is something that I'm going to tell you. It's an important thing. There are 4 words. OODA. Remember that. The first one, O, stands for observe. Observe what is happening around you. Take note of whatever is happening and absorb the situation. That is first O. The second O stands for orientation. Now you learned what is happening on the ground. You realize what is wrong or what is right. And having taken that, then you start orientation. What are the issues which impact that particular situation? Who are the people involved? And they may be inside your unit, it may be outside your organization. So you orientate and you bring in all those issues which have an impact on that particular situation. The third one is D. D is decision making. Now, decision making is always based on the inputs that you receive. You ask your people who are helping you, who are your colleagues, you take their inputs. And of course, you also take your own intuition. As you become senior, your intuition starts working. So with D at that stage, you take decisions after taking into all inputs. That is the third step. And the fourth step is act, implementation. Go for action, implementation. Now, OODA is a loop. And they say that anyone who can traverse through this loop faster than his adversity will always be the winner. So you have to go through this loop of OODA faster than your adversity. That is the guideline as far as I'm concerned for taking decisions, whether it is war or any other situation, wherever you may be. Okay, I go to the next question. What is your advice to the present crop of defense aspirants? What should I say? Having given you this lecture and the talk, I would say there is absolutely no other profession which will give you this kind of satisfaction as than the armed forces. I must tell you another anecdote. One day I took my daughter, I was a lieutenant colonel, I took my daughter into a unit line and we went through the unit line. She was probably 4 years, 4 years old. We came back home and she went and told her brother, who was 3 years older. She says, I saw Papa got 150 salutes. So first time she had gone with me and she saw 150 people saluting me and she was so impressed. And she came and told her brother very proudly that Papa got 150 salutes. And mind you, when I became chief, I had more than 1 million people saluting me. So that is the kind of pride that you get when you are commanding troops and when they trust you and they take you as your leader. What are the leadership qualities that the Indian Armed Forces look for in a candidate? I think I have given this whole thing, but the most important aspect that we look for is the adversity quotient, as I said, AQ, and also the team spirit. When you go through the interview tests, they look at you as both as a team member as well as a team leader, how you perform. And of course, there are the other aspects of being aware and of what is happening around you. But these are the kind of qualities. Self-confidence is important. Just the other day, I saw this picture, Gunjan Saxena. She was the first pilot in the Air Force, IAF, who participated in Kargil War, flying a helicopter. And I felt at the end of it that she didn't look as confident as we have all the girls who have joined Army, Navy, or Air Force. Wherever I have seen these girls or boys, the first thing that you look at them is how confident they are. They are very, very confident. And they become more confident after their service. But somehow this picture disappointed me because here the heroine didn't come across that confident. Should military service be made mandatory for every citizen, like how it is in some countries? Yeah, there are some countries where military service is compulsory, like Singapore or Israel, there are many other, China also. It is mandatory. But, over the years, my experience has been that in a democratic country, in a large democratic country, after some time, people want to, they do not want to carry on with the compulsory service. So the duration of compulsory service has kept reducing in large democratic countries, whether they are in UK, France, USA, or even in Israel also. The boys and girls, they join, but after some time, now they. And in a very country, we have no dearth of volunteers. Each one of us is a volunteer, and we've been doing well. So I don't see really the requirement of making it mandatory. But if you ask me, I would like all the boys and girls, young boys and girls, to join NCC, because that itself gives you a good exposure of the service life, whether it is Army, Navy, or Air Force. You get a good exposure if you join the NCC. And another aspect that I always tell people jokingly, that I would like to see all the netas and the bureaucrats also to join the armed forces for a short while. I've got some more questions coming. Should why officers sometimes leave IAF to become commercial pilots? By and large, they leave because, we have a very sharp pyramid in the services. Everybody cannot go up, keep going up. And after some time, when you realize that, okay, you have done well, but you are unable to go up, the promotion is not available, promotion chances keep getting reduced. So then they join uh, commercial pilot's life. There are rigors as far as there are hardships when you join the armed forces. But sometimes, some people feel that because of the domestic reasons, of any other reason, they joined, decide to leave the IAF and join as a commercial pilot. Somebody says it should be compulsory, mandatory service, compulsory service for 1 year. Well, your opinion, I have mine, so we respect each other's opinion. Everyone wants to serve the nation. Look, I must tell you that everyone does serve the nation, whatever you are doing. After all, when we talk of comprehensive power of a nation, it includes everyone. If you don't economically, if you are not well off, technologically, if you are not well off, your power, that comprehensive power gets reduced. So everybody is doing that kind of service, but serving the nation. They are all doing serving the nation. But I would say that yes, when it comes to armed forces, probably that is the highest caliber situation of serving the nation. How do you manage to remain calm and composed during stressful and tough situations? Yeah, this is important. You have to remain cool when you are facing this situation. Look, I'm a human being. Like most people, I do believe in God Almighty. I'm not an atheist, but I do believe in somebody, looking after. Um, and the other thing that you have, which is important for going over your stress and strain, is your family. Your family must be strong with you, whether wife, children. That is the second aspect which helps you to go over your stressful life. Uh, these are, and the third, of course, are your colleagues. You know, you have your colleagues. Some of them will get, they are more stressful. There are others who are more confident. So those colleagues also, if you have colleagues, people around you who are very confident and who don't come under stress often, they help you. So these are the kind of things in your life you go over, experience all these aspects. They help you to remain cool and calm. It's an important quality for a leader as you keep going up. Tour of duty officer age limit is 34 years. Please reply. I don't really quite understand. Depending upon the age that you join the army or navy or air force, it depends on the rank. Because in our case, the years of service, your tenure depends on each rank. If you keep going up, you keep adding to your service tenure. Thank you, sir, for commenting on the movie. Well, thank you. I see so many hearts, and I would say the same thing to all of you. US even reduced it after Vietnam War, compulsory service. You're right. Even Israel, at one time they had 3 years compulsory service. I think now they have reduced it. It's about 18 and 19 months for girls and about 2 years for the 2 years or 2.5 years for the men. Everybody is very keen to join the, yes, we should involve in military for some years. Well, it's a good thing to hear for me. And why not join the services or make friends with the people who are in service? I'm cleared my NCCC certificate, but due to COVID-19, I can't receive it and also apply for NCC. But I'm sure they will find a way for that. If you write to NCC Directorate, they will find an answer. I'm sure they will have an answer for this kind of problem that you have indicated. Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you all. And I do hope that after this talk, many of you will be even more motivated than you are at the moment to join the armed forces. And I wish you the best of luck in whatever examination that you are giving for joining the Army, Navy, or Air Force. So all the best and Jai Hind.